Up next is a moment that a lot of people have been waiting for here in Viseo. We've got none other than Mr. John Maxwell with us to share with the world of Viseo his passion for building people and for leadership. Inc. magazine called him the #1 leadership expert in the world. He's a recipient of the Horatio Alger Award. He's also been given the Mother Teresa Prize for Global Peace and Leadership from the Luminary Leadership Network. John Maxwell speaks all over the world to Fortune 500 companies. He speaks to companies in our industry and outside of our industry. He's had a passion for 5 decades to teach on leadership and to grow leaders. And he's here with us tonight to share with the world of Viseo some of his passion and his commitment and what he's learned over a number of decades of experience. We're going to go out to John Maxwell. Everyone, please grab a notebook. Please grab a pencil. Please grab a pen. A dull pencil is better than the best memory. Take some notes. You're going to love what John has to share.
Thank you, Daniel, so much. And I'm so excited to be with you. And I just wish you could hear Daniel brag on you. He's so proud of Viseo, and he's so proud of who you are and what you're doing and the difference that you're making. When I talk to leaders, I always love to hear them be passionate about what they're doing and who they're doing it with. And Daniel is both passionate about what you're doing as a company, but he's just as passionate about you as people and part of his team. And so his love for you just transfers over to my love for you. And I just want you to know that I greatly value who you are, and I greatly value what you're doing, and I greatly value the organization that you're a part of. So I began to ask myself the question, how can I best serve you? What is the best thing that I can share with you that will help you to go to an entirely new level of success? And I've come to the conclusion that I want to talk to you about the power of 5. I mean, if you literally, we're all in our homes, or I'm in the studio, but I have a table here. I'm going to invite you to sit on the other side of the table right now, okay? It's just you and me, okay? And we're going to talk. And if you said, John, I really want to do well in Viseo, I want to really be a success in my life, what would you say to me? How can I really make my life count? What I would say to you is, give me, maybe 40, 42 minutes to talk to you about the power of 5. And I want to talk to you about these essentials, because these are what I call everyday essentials for success. And what's beautiful is what I'm going to share with you now. Every one of you can do this. It's not difficult, but you have to be consistent in it. And I will promise you that it will give you great success. So if you said, John, help me be successful, this is exactly what I would teach you. So it's just you and me, okay? Just the two of us. And oh, by the way, I know thousands and thousands are watching, but it's just you and me. And I just like to talk to you from my fatherly heart, my leadership life, about how you can truly make your life count and be very, not only successful, but very significant in your life. And it would, again, be the power of 5. So let me illustrate the power of 5, okay? Let's say you have a tree in your backyard that you want to cut down. So you go out and you have an axe. So you pick up the axe and you walk over to that tree and you swing 5 times at that tree with that axe. Go back over, put the axe down, go back inside the next day, go out, pick up the axe, go to the very same tree. And again, 5 times you swing that axe at the tree, put the axe down, go back in the house. Next day, go out, pick up the axe, go to the same tree, and you swing 5 times, you put the axe down, you go back in the house. So let me just ask you a very simple question. If every day you go out to your backyard and you go pick up that axe, and every day you go over to that tree that you want to cut down. And if you just swing 5 times, not 15, not 50, not 500, just 5 times, and then put the axe. Let me ask you a question. If you do that every day, what is eventually going to happen to that tree? It's going to fall. Now, if it's a small tree, it may be a month or two and it'll come down. If it's a big tree, this may take you a few years to cut the tree down because you're only swinging 5 times every time. But here's what we know. Here's what we know about this story. If every day you go out, pick up the axe, go to the same tree, and if you just swing just 5 times every day, put the axe down, every day you do this, we know eventually that tree is going to fall. Now, out of that simple story that I just gave you, I want to teach you the power of 5. Now, Daniel's already said, a dull pencil is better than a sharp mind, and you just have got to say, right now, I am going to write this down. I'm going to put it on my iPad. I'm going to, my iPhone. I'm going to put it on my legal pad. I don't know what you're writing on, but you do not want to miss these 5 everyday essentials because I promise you, in Viseo, you'll be very successful if you'll do these 5 things. Okay, let's get going. Number 1, the first essential for everyday success is that you have to know what you want to accomplish. That's where it begins. You have to know what you want to accomplish. In the story, what did I want to accomplish? I wanted to cut down a tree in my backyard. Okay? I know what I want to accomplish. Number 2, you have to have the right tool. When I went out in my backyard, I went over and I picked up an axe. Now, an axe is the right tool to cut down a tree. It's sharp. It's used for cutting wood. So every time I swing that axe, I'm going to cut a little bit of wood. I'm going to have some success in reaching my clear objective of what I want to accomplish. But you have to have the right tool. Hello. What would happen if instead of picking up an axe, I'd walk up and I'd pick up a baseball bat? And I'd go to that same tree, and every day I'd take that baseball bat and I'd thump on that tree. Now, let me tell you something. I can do this the rest of my life and never accomplish what I want to achieve. Why? I have the wrong tool. That's why when people tell me, they really work hard and they expect that working hard is going to bring them success, I applaud hard work, by the way. But hard work isn't going to make you successful if you don't have the right tool. Now, what are we doing? We're learning the power of 5. We're learning the essentials that are going to allow us to be successful every day. Number 1, know what you want to accomplish. Number 2, have the right tool. Number 3, take action. Take action. In other words, if I just go over and pick up the axe and I look at that axe and I sharpen that axe every day and I maybe find a good place to mount that axe in my garage, all that stuff has nothing to do with accomplishing my goal. I may have the right tool, but I have to use the right tool. I have to go take that axe, go to that tree, and I gotta take action. Remember this. If you want to have traction, you got to take action. Action is in that word. It's the action that begins to give me the desired results that I'm looking for. My father, when I was young, he used to give me the parable of the 5 frogs. He'd say, John, 5 frogs are on a log, 4 decide to jump off. How many frogs are left? And I'd say, well, 1. He'd say, no, 5 are left. I said, now, wait a minute, Dad. You said there were 5 frogs on a log. 4 decided to jump off. You want to know how many frogs were left? Well, there would only be 1 left. He said, no. You got to understand something, son. Just because you decide to jump doesn't mean you did. It's got to be more than a decision. It's got to be an action. There are all kinds of people. They set their goals up. They got their dreams out there. They talk about their dreams. They plan about their dreams. They bring people around, even ask them to maybe join their dream team. But they don't take action. They have good intentions. You see, probably the most overrated two words in the English language are good intentions. I know a lot of people, they say, well, I really want to, now that I'm part of SAO, I just want to build a business and I've got a dream and this is what I want to do. You have to take action. Nothing happens until you take action. You need to turn your good intentions into action. You see, the dream is free, but the journey isn't. And so many times we love the free dream, but we don't like the cost of the journey. Well, the cost of cutting down that tree is not only knowing what you want to accomplish and having the right tool, it's taking that right tool, going over there and taking action, swinging that axe at that tree. So we've learned 3 of the key essentials to everyday success. You have to know what you want to accomplish. You have to have the right tool. You have to take action. Number 4, you have to stay focused. Got to stay focused. You notice that in the story, every day when I went out to pick up the axe, I went to the same tree. Now, what would have happened if after the first day I walked out, picked up the axe, and I looked out, and I thought, that tree over there, I think I should cut that down too. So I go over to that tree and swing 5 times and put the axe down. Next day I go out and I say, I had noticed, but that tree over there in the middle, it needs to be cut down too. So I go over to that tree, swing 5 times, and put the axe down. Well, okay, now you see I have a problem. I'm not focused. And what's going to end up is I'm not going to cut any trees down because I got distracted. I'm not going to have any fallen trees. I'm just going to have a bunch of scarred trees. And I know people in their life, they've just scarred up a bunch of trees. And they've never gotten accomplished what they wanted to because they didn't stay focused. I have a wonderful friend. In fact, I mentored him. And one of his favorite phrases is pick a rabbit. And he takes that phrase from you've heard that if you try to chase 2 rabbits, both of them will escape. Well, why? Because you're undecided and you're over here for a moment because that looks closer. And then all of a sudden that one, and you're going back and forth and you're too distracted to get a rabbit. Pick a rabbit. Well, pick a tree. You have to know what you want to accomplish. You have to right tool. You got to take action. You have to stay focused. And then number 5, be consistent. Be consistent. Wow. Did you notice that I kept saying the word every day? Every day. Every day. Every day. Yeah, every day. Every day I go out and pick up the axe. Every day I go to that tree. Every day I swing 5 times. Every day I every day. You see, what I know at 74 is this: consistency compounds. No one has ever quit their way to the top. And this is so important for us. I don't want you to miss this. You see, the problem is that consistency doesn't reward you immediately. No one gets an award for being consistent for the first week that they joined Vaseo. And so, oh my gosh, you showed up for the whole week. Way to go. No. You see, consistency compounds only if you stay consistent. And it doesn't compound in the beginning hardly at all. All the compounding is on the back end. I mean, the story of wanting to, maybe break up a boulder. And so you have a sledgehammer and you hit that boulder and you hit it and you hit it. I don't know, maybe 1,000, 2,000. I don't know how many times you hit it, but all of a sudden you have a swing and all of a sudden that boulder cracks. And you say, oh my, wasn't I amazing? I was amazing. No, you've been amazing every time you've swung at the boulder. It's just that it finally shows up. It's like an ice cube melting. If you want to make an ice cube melt, how does it melt? It melts 1 degree at a time. So at from 28 to 29, nothing happens. 29 to 30, nothing happens. 30 to 31, nothing happens. 31 to 30, 32, it starts to melt. You see, what we miss is the fact that we have to be consistent before we can receive the return. The boulder didn't crack with one swing. The tree doesn't fall with one swing. I mean, it's possible one day just to stop and you're only one chop away from that tree falling. And by the way, when that ice cube melted, you didn't get good when it melted that day. You were already good. It just showed up one day. This is a huge difference. You see, your work has to be stored before it can be shown. And so when all of a sudden somebody seems to have a great return, and everybody says, "Oh, you're amazing." Well, what made you amazing on that day was you were amazing several days. I mean, when you go to college, you spend 4 or 5 years working on your degree, and finally one day you get your diploma. And when you get your diploma and you graduate, everybody comes and gives you gifts and takes pictures and has a party and hugs you and says, "That's amazing. Congratulations. You're a success." Well, no, you didn't become a success the day you graduated. You became a success when you registered for school. You became a success when you went to school. Became a success when you went to classes. You became a success when you did your homework. You were a success when you were doing all these things. You see, you're already a success. It just one day at graduation shows up. And the show up stage of our success is way overrated. And the storing, the working, the behind the scenes consistency is highly underrated. I was having a conversation one day with my friend Tyler Perry, and we were talking about consistency. And he was telling me about the fact that, as an actor, he wanted to produce and do, movies, plays. So he built him a studio and he outgrew it. So he built him another studio, he outgrew it. So he built him a studio that he thought was bigger than life. So I'll never outgrow that. And guess what? He was so successful, he outgrew it. And he said, I didn't want to do it again. He said, I was so tired of building studios. And so for 2 years, he said, I just didn't do it. Finally, one day I said, if I'm ever going to get to where I need to go, I got to go build the studio. So he did. And so we had this conversation. Of course, now he's just one of the major stars in that world. And when we're having the conversation, I said to Tyler, I said, you know what your lesson teaches me? And what your lesson teaches me is when you can afford to quit. You can't afford to quit. Because at the end, you're on that compounding time, and it just begins to reproduce it itself. I mean, I guess if we're going to quit, we ought to quit the first day so that we don't have any compounding going on. We didn't start anything, so we don't lose anything. And I'm just so excited that I can share with you this power of 5. And I'm so excited, Daniel, that I can help your leaders really go to a whole new level, because your company is doing such good work and you just need to have the good news spread around. And so what I want to do is to now give you these incredible 5 things that really matter. I call them the power of 5, okay? We've got the story. Now let's begin to build it, okay? There are 5 things that if you'll do well at Viseo, I will promise you'll be highly successful. I'm going to give you the 5 immediately, and then I'm going to teach on them. First of all, growth matters, your personal growth. It's essential to your success. Number 2, connecting matters. Your ability to connect and relate with people and influence them to be on your team. This is huge. Number 3, mindset, how you think. It truly matters. Number 4, leadership matters. How you lead, who you lead. It makes a huge difference. And finally, significance really matters. So now that we understand kind of the big picture of the power of 5, let's just kind of dive for a moment. And let me talk to you about, first of all, growth matters. Okay, you're sitting at the table with me right now, okay? It's just the two of us. We're just talking. If you said, okay, John, you're 74, you're at the top of your game, you have 7 companies, you're still growing, blowing, and just moving things out. What is the secret to your success? I would tell you without any question, personal growth. The secret of my success is that I am committed every day to intentionally improving my life. You see, your first investment should be in you. If you wouldn't bet on yourself, why should anyone else bet on you? The first person that you should pour into yourself, as far as saying, I'm going to get some training, is for you. Because you see, a better you makes a bigger you, and a bigger you makes a more influential you. And so This whole area of growth is absolutely amazing. And I have been committed for personal growth for now 50 years. I had a mentor ask me if I had a plan for growth. I didn't. And then he said to me, growth is not automatic. And what he taught me that day was getting older is automatic. Growth is not automatic. I don't have to work at getting older, okay? The calendar just turns those pages. So a lot of people get older, but they don't get better. And he said, John, if you're going to get better, you're going to have to be intentional. You're going to have to have a growth plan. You're going to have to be committed to every day developing yourself, and every day just grab a hold of personal growth. One of the things I'm so excited about Viseo is I know that it creates a personal growth climate and culture. I know Daniel, and I know what they're trying to accomplish as leaders, and they want your success. They want your personal success. They want your growth. They know that if you grow, your business will grow. They know there's a relationship between you being bigger and your people being bigger, you getting better and your people be getting better. And so I just love the fact that they have developed what I would call a growth culture. But let me just take a moment and just share with you that one of the things that Viseo, they just give you and offer you in so many ways is they offer you a growth environment. And a growth environment means several things. I only have time for maybe a couple now. A growth environment that Viseo gives you is the fact that other people are ahead of you. It's a wonderful thing to be in a group of people where you have faster, smarter, better, more successful people than you. Let me just put it this way. If you're at the head of the class, honestly, you're in the wrong class. You see, when you're at the head of class, you're telling everybody else what you're doing, and they're watching you, and you do very little growing yourself because you're expending your time with others. You always want to be around people bigger, better, faster, smarter than you. Every month for the last 40 years, I have what I call learning lunches. And what that means is I ask somebody to have lunch with me, and the person I ask to have lunch with me, they're more successful than me, and I don't even eat that lunch. I just take them out. I've got 7 questions I want to ask them. I feed them, and while they're eating, I ask them those 7 questions, and I learn from them, and I learn from their experience. And what am I doing? I'm creating a growth environment where other people who have already experienced what I haven't experienced, already traveled where I haven't traveled, can help me to get better. So you just want to be in an environment where other people are ahead of you. You want to be in an environment where the atmosphere around you is affirming. Oh my. Where you are encouraged. Encouragement is the oxygen of the soul. So you want to be around that kind of an environment that just kind of speaks into your life and lifts you up and believes in you and helps you get to that kind of level. This is absolutely huge. You want to be in an environment where failure is your friend, where you're allowed to practice leadership, and in practicing leadership, you have some misses. I think one of the big mistakes we make, in fact, I've not written a book on this, and I've not done any teaching because I'm just starting to share it with people, but I think one of the big mistakes we make about failure and success is that we separate them. And we basically say, now, be successful, and don't fail, but, really get great, but boy, don't make any mistakes. And so we take failure and success and we separate them as far as we possibly can. And that's not realistic, and that's not helpful at all. Success and failure should always be together. I have never met a person successful that didn't have great mess-ups and mistakes. I mean, I never had anybody say, well, it was very easy to be successful, and I got there very quickly, and I had no problems, and I had no adverse issues. No, that person's not building a business. They're on drugs. Come on. Success and failure, they go hand in hand. It's out of my failures, I learn and improve, which makes me more successful. In my learning lunches, one of the questions I ask 7, but one of the questions I ask is, how has failure shaped your life? That's a great question. And inevitably, somebody will say, well, let me tell you something. Let me tell you what I learned from my failure. In my I have one of my companies is a coaching company called the John Maxwell Team. And we have a process of a cycle of success. And in that cycle of success, it is test, fail, learn, improve, and re-enter. And we're always testing, trying things we never tried. And because of that, we have some misses, we have some failures. But what's the value of failure? What you learn. What's the value of learning? Improving. What's the value of improving? You get to get back in the game. And it's a cycle. And so we just, every time we go through those 5 steps, we just get a little bit higher. We climb a little bit more. And, 37,000 coaches in 172 countries would tell you that this really works. This really works. But it only works because we're in a growth environment where failure is embraced as a friend. So when people say, wow, whoa, that was a mess up. Okay, so I have a question. What did you learn? You see, if you learned from your failure, it becomes a real asset to you. And after you've learned, how did you improve? And after you improved, when did you re-enter? So I just want you to know that this is absolutely huge, that to personally grow, be intentional, and have a growth environment. One quick last story before I get to the second one. I was in my 20s. I heard Earl Nightingale say that if you would spend 1 hour a day, every day, on the same subject for 5 years, that at the end of that 5 years, you'd be an expert on that subject. And I was so passionate about leadership and I wanted to learn it. I was just a young leader. I said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to spend an hour a day on leadership for 5 years, and I'm going to become an expert on leadership. And so that's exactly what I did every day, an hour, every day. Reading about leadership, talking to leaders, asking leadership questions, practicing leadership every day, 1 hour, leadership. And I thought, boy, Earl Nightingale said 5 years, I'll be an expert. So, I'm starting to count down, okay, I've finished with year 1, year 2, wow, I'm in the middle here. I was kind of like Cape Canaveral, 5, 4, 3. And I was going to launch off as an expert before it was all over. But then something happened. It was about the middle of those 5 years that I was spending an hour every day on leadership that I began to change internally. This was amazing. I began to see things in leadership I'd never seen before. I began to have an awareness. I began to sharpen my leadership skills. I started leading better, leading well, leading more. There was a major change going on within me. And now catch this. Up until that time, I was thinking of Earl Nightingale's 5 years and I'd become an expert. So I was doing a countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, off I go. How long will it take? How long will it take? Well, how long will it take? 5. Well, now it'll take 4. Now, how long will it take? How long will it take? About halfway through this 5-year journey, I quit asking the question, how long will it take? Because I was having inward change because of my personal growth. I was developing my growth capacity. And I stopped asking, how long will it take? And I started asking, how far can I go? This was life-changing. I no longer asked the question, how long will it take? I just asked the question, how far can I go? I'm 74. I haven't even come close to the finish line yet. I'm still growing. I'm still learning. That's why I'm passionate about personal growth. Again, if it's just you and me and you're sitting over here on the other side of the table with me and say, John, what has helped you to be successful more than anything else? Personal growth matters. That's one of the power of 5. Number 2, connecting matters. What I tell leaders all the time is that you have to find people before you can lead them. And connecting is so essential for a leader. It's essential for you. It's essential for me. I have to go find people, which means I have to spend a lot of time with people. We hear the expression, it's lonely at the top, and we think that's a leadership expression. That's not a leadership expression. Let me say this. If you're lonely at the top of the mountain, you're not a leader. You're just a hiker. Yeah, you're just a hiker. Because you see, leaders take people with them to the top. Leaders don't cross the finish line alone. You see, I go down and I find you in the valley and I say, okay, I'm going to connect with you. I'm going to take you to the top. In my book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, there's the law of connection, that leaders touch a heart before they ask for a hand. There's the law of buy-in. People buy into the leader before they buy into the vision. And so every day I work hard at connecting with people. It's a passion of mine. How do I connect with them? In my book, Developing the Leader Within You 2.0, I have a very important chapter on the 7 motivations of people. Basically, the thesis of the chapter is that people are motivated for different reasons, and you have to know what their motivation is. And you have to find that, because then you lead them based on what they want and what they need in their life. You see, the difference between leaders and managers is that managers lead everybody the same and leaders lead everybody differently. They connect, and they connect by asking questions. They connect by finding out, what those motivations are. I don't have time to go through them today. Again, it's in my book, Developing the Leader Within You 2.0. It's a whole chapter. But I'll just quickly give you the 7 motivations. One is purpose. People are motivated because of purpose. In other words, they want to do what they believe they were created to do. They believe they're here for a purpose in life, and that only in fulfilling that purpose will they be fulfilled. And so that they're motivated by what is your purpose in life. There are some people who are motivated by autonomy. They want to be their own boss. They want to have freedom. There are a lot of people in Viseo that they said, wait a minute, I would like to work for myself. I'd like to have my own freedom. I'd like to have some autonomy. I'd like to own my own dream. I'd like it to be my dream. So they're motivated by that. There are some people that are motivated by relationships. They just want to be and do things with other people. They want to be connected. They love being on a team. Some people are motivated by progress. In other words, they just have to see things happen. When I was in college, I worked my way through college, and I literally painted houses. And the one thing I loved about painting houses, there's a whole bunch of things I didn't love, trust me, but the one thing I loved about painting houses is I could see my progress every day. And there were days when I'd say, okay, when I started, I was on this side, and I'm over on another side. And look what I've accomplished. Some people are motivated by progress. Some people are motivated by mastery. And they want to be able to do something so well that they get in that top, 2%. And so they love excelling in their skill and just perfecting it. Some people are motivated by recognition. They just want to be recognized for their accomplishment. They like people to point to them and say, hey, you're the man, you're the woman, you did it. Congratulations, way to go. I love this. Some people are motivated by money. And they just say, wow, I just want to get financially solid. I want to get financially secure. And all of these are important. Why am I giving you that? Because I'm talking about connecting. I'm talking about what are your people motivated for? Look at your team. Find out what's their motivation. And then you motivate them. For example, if I'm motivated by progress, then what you want to do is you want to show me how far I can go and how much I can achieve in your organization. That you just say, hey, wait, if if you look how much progress you can make if you just do these certain things. Well, if I'm motivated by relationships, you want to make sure that I'm with my team and look what you can do together. Okay, you got the picture, but you got to connect with them. You got to find them. You got to connect with them if you're really going to be successful. So we've talked about 2 of the 5. We've talked about the very fact that connecting matters when we connect with each other. We've talked about growth matters, and the third thing that, wow, I wish I had time on this one, mindset, how we think matters. I think the greatest gap between success and failure is the thinking gap. I wrote a book. It's been very popular. In fact, it's sold well over 1 million copies. It's called How Successful People Think. And it's all about the fact that the thinking patterns of successful people are different than unsuccessful people. I'm not saying successful people are smarter. I'm just saying they think differently. And in fact, in that book, I talk about 11 thinking patterns that successful people engage in that unsuccessful people don't. My father just passed away in 2020, in fact, on July 4th last year. And he was 98 years of age. He was an incredible man, had an unbelievable attitude in his life. He worked full time up to the age of 95. And, it was so interesting. He grew up in a little town in southern Ohio, not too far from Cincinnati, just a little town, very little, very kind of a poor town. In fact, he said there were only 3 families that, in the town that basically had much means at all. And so he did errands for those people, and he came to the conclusion as a kid doing errands for all 3 of those families that the difference between them and everyone else is how they thought. Their mindset really was the difference. And when my father was a young man, the Depression, everybody was out of a job, but my father wasn't. So men were standing in line for food every day, and my father had 3 part-time jobs during the most difficult time of that Depression. And I said, Dad, how did you do that? He said, well, no one had any jobs, so I'd go to the hardware store, and I'd just basically tell the hardware owner, I know you can't afford me today, but I love to work. Can I just work for you for free? And after the hardware store would get over the shock of here's some stranger that wants to work for him for free and understood he really meant it, he'd give him a few errands. My dad would work hard. At the end of the day, he'd shake his hand and say, thanks, I loved working for you today. And by this time, the hardware owner was saying, I'm so sorry, young man. My gosh, I wish I could pay you. You really helped me today. And that's not, no, this is good. I know you can't pay me. It's okay. I just wanted to work for you. And then he would say, if ever you start to kind of recover financially and you have room for maybe a part-time helper, would you just call me? I'd love to work for you. Next day, my dad would go to a different store, do the same thing, a different store. Literally, by the time the first month was over, he had 3 part-time jobs. Now, what's the difference between my dad having 3 part-time jobs and everyone else standing in line for food? It's the mindset. It's how we think. It is absolutely the difference maker. The 4th area in the power of 5 is in the area of leadership. Of course, it would be in leadership. You don't think I could talk to you about something that matters and not have leading in the process, but it's a fact that leaders really matter and leadership really makes a difference. You see, in my 20s, I came to a conclusion that has been the motivation for me to teach and write on leadership ever since. I've been writing and teaching on leadership for over 50 years. In fact, the CEO of Random House recently told me that I've written more leadership material than any person who's ever lived in the history of mankind. I love leadership, but the passion of training you to lead and teaching you how to lead comes from a conviction, a conclusion that became a conviction when I was in my 20s. I concluded that everything rises and falls on leadership, everything. I think the reason that Visalia is doing so good is because you have good leadership. I think that the reason that if you're succeeding is because you lead well. Everything rises and falls on leadership. This is huge. It's absolutely huge. In fact, when I teach the law of the lid, that's out of the 21 laws of leadership, I tell people if you're an average leader from a 1 to a 10, you're a 5. If this is my leadership skill set, abilities, then my business, even in Viseo, will be a 4. Why? I've got a leadership lid that doesn't allow me to go any higher. It holds me there. Well, that's a problem, isn't it? How well you lead determines how well you succeed. But here's what's powerful. You can grow as a leader. You can develop your leadership. Yes, you can. In other words, if I'm a 5 as a leader, but I start really practicing leadership, learning leadership, okay, hanging around with Maxwell, okay, here's what happens. My lid goes from a 5, I could grow to a 6. And then I can put it up to a 7. And as I raise my lid, what do I do with my business? I'm now raising the potential of my business. I can go from a 4 to a 5 to 6 to a 7. In fact, your business always follows your leadership. As the leader goes, so goes the business. When people ask me, how do I build my company? I say, well, it's very simple. You've got to build leaders. Okay, there's one more that I want to give you, and that is that significance matters. It just does. Significance matters. Now, there's a difference between success and significance. Success is pretty much about me, what I've done, how much money I make, what kind of house I have, where I live, the car I drive, money I have in a bank. It's pretty much about me. That's what success is all about. Significance is all about others. It's no longer about me. It's about you. How can I add value to you? How can I make a difference in your life? There's a world of difference between success and significance. And by the way, I want you to be successful. In Viseo, I want you to do really well. I want you to be successful. But I want you to be also significant. I want you to take your blessings and your resources and add value to people. You know, selfishness and significance they're just incompatible. If you're selfish, you'll never be significant. And if you have significance in your life, honestly, you won't be selfish. I've known a lot of successful people in life, a lot, many. And many of them are unhappy. But when it comes to significant people, people that are adding value to others and they're pouring their life into others, I've never met an unhappy, unfulfilled, significant person. Why? Because we were created to be our brother and our sister's keeper. We were created to add value to people. We were created to make a difference. In fact, to be honest with you, Viseo was created to make a difference. They were created to be significant. They were created to add value to people around the world. And that's exactly what you're doing. You're with a beautiful company that has a very high leadership lid so you can grow and so that you can really make a difference. You see, my journey is very simple. I want to make a difference with people who want to make a difference, doing something that makes a difference at a time when it makes a difference. That's who I am. That's what I want to do. And I have a feeling that there are many of you sense the same thing that I sense. You really want to make your life count. You really do want to make a positive difference in the lives of people. And if that's the case, take the power of 5. Take these 5 things that I have shared with you today. All of them are simple. And say, okay, intentionally, I'm going to grow. Intentionally, I'm going to connect. Intentionally, I'm going to have the right mindset. Intentionally, I'm going to lead. And intentionally, I'm going to be a person of significance. If you'll do those 5 things, trust me, you will be on your way to success, not only in your personal life, but your organization. Viseo will be on its way to success. And this is what makes me happy, because my greatest fulfillment today is not in my own personal success. I've already had a whole bunch of that. My greatest fulfillment in life is in your success. That's why I've spent time with Daniel. That's why I've spent time with you. I want to add value to you. Remember this. Remember this always. My name is John, and I'm your friend. Thank you for letting me share with you today.
John did an amazing job. Thank you so much, John Maxwell, for sharing with everybody. Man, there's so many nuggets in there, so much content. And I had the opportunity a couple months ago to spend the day with John Maxwell. A friend of mine invited me. And what an amazing guy, 74 years old. And you can hear his passion for leadership, for the subject of leadership. And he loves what we're building. He loves what we're doing. And I loved when he talked about the culture of growth in the community and being around people that lift you up and believe in you. That's what Viseo's about. John couldn't be with us live tonight, but a couple days ago, I got to spend some time with him via a virtual Zoom. And when he was putting together his keynote that we just shared, afterwards, I got to ask him a few questions. We had a little back and forth at the office. I thought you guys might enjoy this. We talked about leadership, and I was able to get a little bit behind the scenes of some of how John thinks. Hope you enjoy.
One of the things I took away from what you just shared is your talk about a growth culture. And when you talk about everything rises and falls on leadership, I think it's so critical to have a culture that creates growth and doesn't stifle it, but creates it. And we talk about you'll never outgrow your business, your skills. I pity the man that inherits $1 million but doesn't have the skills to go with it. We want to create a culture of growth and of skills. And so I've put together, not to put you on the spot, but I've put together a couple questions that I'd love to ask you. About leadership specifically, and to talk about this culture that we've created, an environment where leaders can grow. And part of that, John, and your organization has just been amazing to work with, is when you talk about the Power of Five book. By the way, guys, this Power of Five is fantastic. And we have recently decided to partner with John Maxwell, the John Maxwell companies, to provide our leaders the opportunity to have access to a lot of John's content. It's one thing to see John on a keynote like this on our convention and say, wow, that was powerful. It's another thing to be able at your fingertips, at the click of a computer, go get additional content that you can use in your business and you can share with your leaders to help them grow their businesses. And so I'm so excited, John, to announce to the world of Viseo our partnership. And we are going to offer, guys, I mean, this is dirt cheap. When you look at some of the things out there that cost thousands of dollars and tens of thousands of dollars for the programs to join and the coaching, John's team it's just incredible what they put together. They came to us and said, for $199, we're going to give everyone in the world of Viseo, $199. We're going to give everybody in the world of Viseo 10 modules. And these modules are specifically about the Power of Five, about leadership, and about network marketing in our industry. So they're not about the insurance industry. They're about leadership in general, but they're specifically tailored to this industry. And so I would encourage everybody out there, for $199, you get 10 modules. It's over 3 hours, by the way, of content. It's just content rich. I'm so excited. I've been on there myself, and I've been going through all the content. It's incredible. And when you sign up to get the digital content, you'll get a book in the mail from John's team. You'll get the Power of Five. This will be mailed to you. And by the way, if I were you guys, I'd go out there, I'd get as many copies as you can in your leaders' hands. And that's something else I've been working with John's team on, to make sure that we can get books in a mass quantity with a volume discount, so we can get this in people's hands and we can get the message out there about the Power of Five, because this is specifically written for our industry, guys. You don't want to miss this. So, John, I want to ask you a few questions and go, and pick your brain a little bit here. One of those is you are a pastor, but you started off, you've pastored churches in California and Ohio and Indiana and Florida and all over. And I heard you say a few minutes ago that in your 20s, you realized everything rises and falls on leadership. And you specifically started sharing and studying about leadership. What was it that made you go down the path? Maybe what made you realize the importance of leadership? And you've obviously grown into world's most, the foremost expert on leadership. But take us through that transition a little bit of the need for leadership that you saw all the way back then, and what that looks like. What was it specifically that you said, you know what, leadership is going to be where I carve out, where I become the expert in this field?
Daniel, I'm so glad you asked me that question. Well, when I was a pastor, my church grew very fast. And so by the time I was 28, I had the 10th largest church in America. And people were coming to me and they were asking me, pastors were coming in mass and they're saying, how did you grow this church? And honestly, I thought, well, I'm not sure. I mean, I love people, so I'd tell them, oh, well, go love your people. And then I go watch pastors, they love their people, and their church really wasn't growing that good. And then I'm ashamed to say this. I even went a little spiritual to say, well, pray. And, oh, I should be shot for that. And then I found, Daniel, people who prayed much more than I did, loved God much more than me, and their church wasn't growing. And so it frustrated. And then I said, well, work hard. You just aren't working hard enough. And then I'd see people working hard, and they weren't having that success. So I said, okay, there's something that I'm doing well, but I'm not even sure myself. So I asked a lot of people, and I came to the conclusion after a couple of months that I was a very good leader. And I grew up in a leader's home. And so I grew up in an environment of leadership, so it was not like anything amazing to me. I watched leaders lead, and so I led, and I kind of just assumed that everybody kind of did. And so when I realized that it was leadership that gave me the edge, I began to say, okay, is that true in every area? Okay, it's kind of maybe true in the religious world, but how about business? And then I started studying companies, and I saw that they had a leadership edge, the ones who were successful. And then I started studying geography and government. To make the long story short, by the time I was 25, I came to the conclusion, 26, that everything rises and falls on leadership. And the moment that I bought into that, then I said, if that is true, if everything rises and falls on leadership, then why shouldn't I spend my life teaching people how to lead? Now, back then, that was just a rare thought, because back then, this is the dark ages, Daniel, dark ages. I'm talking about the 1960s, 70s. Here's what's amazing. People didn't think you could develop yourself as a leader. They thought you were a born leader. You either were born, and that's a born leader, or I'm a born follower. And so they looked at leadership as a title or a position, and they looked at it as a noun, not a verb. It's something that they were, not something they did. And all of a sudden I said, no. If leadership is influence, which it is, I can teach people how to increase their influence. In fact, I wrote a book called The 5 Levels of Leadership, Daniel. That book, I started teaching on the 5 levels of leadership, oh my gosh, back in the 70s. And those 5 steps. And nobody would come to the seminar. And I'd say, why don't you come to the leadership seminar? They'd say, I'm already a leader. You see, they had no comprehension. Now, we can't grab that, but they had no comprehension that leadership was something that they needed to develop. And so when I wrote the book, Developing the Leader Within You, it was life-changing, because all of a sudden people said, oh my gosh, I could increase my influence, and so therefore I can develop myself a leader. Because if you can increase influence, you can develop yourself as a leader. That's what leadership is. So then I was passionate, and so I gave my life. I just gave my life to helping people learn how to lead. And as I look back now, I'm so glad that, I had no idea that it would take me this far. I had no idea that I would become what I am, but it didn't matter. It's just I knew that everything rises and falls in leadership, and so I was going to help every person I could possibly help learn how to lead well. And I'm 74, and I still get it. I mean, before I came on to talk to you, Daniel, and Viseo and your wonderful organization, I was all excited. I could hardly wait. Come on, let's go. Let's get going. I'm 74. I shouldn't be this excited. Why am I? I'm excited because I know what I share works. And, anticipation. I wake up without alarms, 5:30 every day. I'm writing. And people say, John, you must be incredibly disciplined. I said, no, I'm just full of anticipation. I wake up and I say, I'm going to write something today that's going to help somebody. And I can hardly wait. It's anticipation that gets me in the game. And so, you can tell I'm very passionate about this.
I love that. That's fantastic. Well, share with me. You talk about your excitement. That leads me into my next question. I was going to ask it in a few minutes, but that's a perfect lead-in for what drives you. You're 74 years old. You've sold tens of millions, 34 plus million books. You've spoken all over the world. You've built incredible companies, and you've helped people, millions of people all over the world. What drives John today? What does get you out of bed? You said the excitement, the anticipation of helping somebody, but go a little bit deeper for me. What drives John?
I'm so glad to. Thank you for asking the question, Daniel. What drives me is the fact that once you've helped one person, you begin to scale it, and you realize if I've helped one person, I could help another person. And this anticipation, okay, helping somebody and making them better, helping them to get better, fills you with confidence and anticipation. And so I say, well, I could, if I did this for her, I can maybe do this for him. And so after years of doing this, and after years of seeing literally, I don't know, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people have their life changed through what I teach, now it's kind of like I can hardly wait. Here's what I know. Let's just take your company, for example. If all of the people in your organization, all of you that are part of Viseo, if you anticipate that every time you recruit somebody to come into your business, that it's going to make a difference in their life. Now, forget about what it's going to do for you. Again, this is where the miss is. I think so many times we say, boy, I just want to recruit them because it's going to help me make more money and help me build my business and everything. Forget about you. It's all about them. I tell everybody, you will go from success to significance when you realize it's not about you. It's all about the people. And so now, as you go out and you recruit them and you make their life better. Let me say this. If your life has been better since you become part of this organization, then somebody else's life will become better if they can become a part of it also. So now, all of a sudden, if I anticipate I'm going to add value to you, I'm more eager to do it than if I anticipate that I won't add value to you. So it's knowing that you're making a difference that just kind of keeps me in the game. And I mean, what else could I do? I mean, you know, I could go, I love to play golf, but I mean, if I go out, if I play golf today, I wouldn't be helping you. And I mean, when I got done, all I would do is have a bunch of bad shots to remember. Why should I would rather help you. So it's adding value. It's valuing people and adding value to people. That's the core that keeps me in the game.
That's fantastic, John. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with all of us. And a couple more questions. One is, you talk about embracing failure, and the way you said it and shared about one of your companies, and there's a trial by error, but there's always a growth. There's always something comes out of it because of that failure. I think in our industry, people are afraid sometimes to even take the first step, because in their subconscious, in their mind, they're afraid of failing. How do you take the average person that maybe hasn't had a lot of success in their life, so they don't have the confidence of, I can do this, I'm a leader. What would you say about how do you get the average person to get over that hump of embracing failure?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked me this question, because I think I can help. See, I think before a person has confidence, I think they have to have a connection. Let me explain. If I was, let's say that I'm I would love to be on, by the way, because you have such a great company. Let's say I would be on the Viseo team, and I got my group. I've got my team together, and they're all newbies, and they're all nervous and scared, and they aren't sure what they can do and what they can't do. And okay, I'd bring them in the room and I'd say, let me explain to you how you fail your way to success. Mm-hmm. And so what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to talk to you about my success. I'm going to talk to you about the home I live in, the car I drive, the vacation I'm going to take, and the money I make. I'm going to talk to you about any of that. What I'm going to talk to you about is the things that I have done wrong in this organization. I'm going to talk to you about my failures. And I would then talk about people that I tried to recruit that said no. I tell about people that I recruited that left and didn't like me. I would go through all of my failures, and I would look at them and I'd say, now, you're going to start and you're going to have some failures just like mine. Because let me explain something to you. You're never good the first time. Nobody's good the first time. So when you start anything, of course you're going to mess up. Of course you're going to miss. Of course you're going to fall short. It's okay. I did too. Now, there's something. Now, I said people need a connection before they can get confidence. If I admit that I have messed up a lot and not always done it right and had to learn a lot of lessons in that whole process, now I'm connecting with you. So if I go out as a newbie and I try to recruit this person, they kind of run away and say, tell me to jump in the lake. I don't think, oh my gosh, I'm not cut out for this business. I think, now, wait a minute, John, he failed. And look how well he's done. Now, all of a sudden, I have a realistic picture of what success is all about. Success is not all about success. Success is a lot about trial and error, ups and downs, ins and outs, disappointments, rejection, and all that stuff. And I think that we too often, honestly, point to our successes and we become unreachable. If I'm not reachable if people look at all the things I've done and all I do is talk about all the things I've done. But I'm very reachable when I tell people that the first time I ever spoke, I spoke for 55 minutes to about 30 people, and I bored them all, and none of them came back to the next meeting. I mean, none of them. I mean, I was like 0 for what, 35? And it's because I was a terrible speaker. Now they say, well, you're a great speaker. Well, I've done it 12,000 times. Of course, if I can't be great after 12,000 times, shoot me. You know what I mean? What are we going to do with me? So what I think is missing, honestly, is that we're so wanting people to be successful that we talk about our success and we create a gap. And they say, I just can't get there because they're looking and they're not doing it that well. Mm-hmm. And we need to... You need to close the gap. Leaders don't stay on top of the mountain and say, come up to me. Leaders get off the mountain and say, I'm with you. Now, let's walk together. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. That's fantastic. John, we've got 2 more questions and we'll wrap this up. This has been amazing, by the way. I know there's people all over the world that have tuned into this that are just loving what you've shared with us the last hour. I want to ask you, if you look and you hear the word leader, whether it's our industry, whether it's in business, whether it's in church, whether it's in anywhere, friendships, family, and somebody talks about so-and-so's a leader, I think the majority of people sitting in those chairs, whether it's at a business meeting, anywhere, say, I'm not a leader. That's great for John. That's great for Daniel. That's great for Dallin. That's great for the Viseo organization, but I'm not a leader. They're looking for leaders. I'm not a leader. What would you say to a person that said, what would you tell them that they can do? 2 or 3 tips of how they can grow into a leader and have confidence that even if you're only leading 1 or 2 people, you still have influence and you have leadership ability.
I ask people a simple question. Do you influence anybody? Well, yeah, my children. Okay, you're a leader because that's what leadership is. I didn't say you're a big leader. You don't have to be a big leader. In fact, sometimes it's important just to lead your own family. So the reason I love the definition that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less, is again, it makes it reachable for people. So I would tell everybody, you don't become a leader when you get a position. You become a leader when you realize you have influence. And now your goal is to increase your influence so you can lead better and lead more.
That is fantastic, John, and spot on. My final question for you as we wrap this up. I know there's people out there going, oh, that was too soon. We want to keep going, but we've got to let John, he's got a busy, packed schedule. And I want to ask you a little behind the scenes of John Maxwell. What are the few things that you have to do every day? Maybe there's a consistency. I love, by the way, what you talked about consistency, and consistency compounds, but only if you stay consistent, because all the rewards on the back end. We forget that so much. And that's in life, that's in business, that's in everything. Doing something day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. What are the few things, as we wrap up, that you'll share with the group? What do you do on a daily basis to iron sharpens iron, to stay sharp? But also, what do you do for your own mental, to stay sharp and to stay in the game? What are things you do every day that you just have to do to stay consistent personally?
Well, I have a power of 5 for what I do. Every day I read, every day I think, every day I file, every day I ask questions, every day I write. And that's a beautiful, read, think, file, ask questions, write. And I'm very intentional. I didn't say I do it all day. I just said I do it every day. Well, where we miss it is we think we got to do something a long time every day. We're better to be consistent and do it in shorter times every day than we are to be big one day and then not do anything for a week, and then we kind of get back into it. And so I that's why I love the power of 5 and the 5 swings thing. So I do that every day for my mental growth and my personal growth, and then every day I value people. Every day I look for ways to add value to people. Every day I think of ways to add value to people. Every day I do things that add value to people, and every day I encourage others to add value to people. I really am consistent in every day I find, and I try to find people that I don't even know and add value to them. My greatest joy is helping somebody that doesn't have a clue who I am. And so I and that keeps my heart, I think, pure as a leader, to always realize the only reason I'm leading isn't for my advantage, it's for the advantage of others. And I think that just kind of keeps my motives where they need to be.
We look forward to this amazing partnership together and offering our team all over the globe this content, this digital content, and your book, The Power of Five.